All right, thank you for staying on LN 24/7. We continue the show this time around to look at Edo politics, probe of Obaseki'S government. Now, Edo State's former governor, Godwin Obaseki, took several actions in the twilight of his administration, many of which have raised eyebrows across the state. Now, some of the challenges and some of the things that he did that I'll just give you a breakdown of some of them. Some will say appointing board members for parastatals, ministries and agencies. And critics have argued that the timing of these appointments was designed to create administrative hurdles for the incoming government. Now, because we want to talk about what really is the motivation for this probe that has been kickstarted by the Okpebholo administration. You also look at an issue of the presentation of supplementary budget of 450 billion by the Obaseki administration, allegations that of the 24.6 billion collected by the state as derivation funds, recruitment of teachers and conversion of political aides to civil servants and also SSAs and special advisors to full-time civil servants. And many would also talk about the commissioning of several projects, some of which were reportedly incomplete. But Edo Governor Okpebholo has formed the 14-member committee to investigate assets and liabilities under the Godwin Obaseki'S administration. The committee is tasked with reviewing the assets and liabilities handed over by the Obaseki administration with a view to ensuring transparency, probity and accountability in governance. But is that the case? What is driving all of this? We'll get to speak to one of the media aides of Asuwe Ugodolo, who will be talking to us shortly. But the media aide to the immediate past governor, Obaseki, Crusoe Sage, has said that the move by the governor, Okpebholo, to probe Obaseki'S government is a smoke screen to mask his incompetence and unpreparedness for office. In a statement, Osage said Okpebholo is devoid of ideas and lacks clear vision to drive development in the state, noting that the governor is resorting to cheap political theatrics and using a circus of meaningless probes to distract from his glaring incompetence and lack of direction. Okay? Chris joins us live from Edo State. Thank you, sir, for being with us on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So there's this narrative out there that your former principal, Governor Obaseki, intentionally kind of, in the words of, what's his name again, a former commissioner for information under Oshomole's administration now, he used the word booby traps for the now incumbent Okpebholo. What are your thoughts on this allegation, so to speak?
All right. What you must know is that the present governor, made by INEC, is coming with a vendetta, and that vendetta is probably the sole agenda that it has. It is it's against the background of how he became governor. The case is in court, so we don't want to be sub judice. But I hope you know that the Edo State PDP and the people of Edo State who voted are still demanding to know why the result released by INEC in its own IREP is different from the result announced, which itself is also different from the CTC. So there's a huge burden of illegitimacy hanging on him, as foisted on him or fostered on him by Edo people. And that anger is there. Obaseki and the things he did are not secret. The modus operandi of Obaseki from the first day he entered office was to start working for Edo people and introduce the new paradigm of work, which was his own trajectory of. And he didn't see any reason why he should stop working the way many others do, which we citizens condemn and criticize, that if you are a governor, the fact that you have begun an election year doesn't mean that you should stop working. And Obaseki did exactly what citizens had expected, that he will work, so to speak, to the very last day. So everything you have mentioned are all within the normal and regular activities of Obaseki's governance modus operandi. We continually employ according to how vacancies presented themselves, whether into the teaching service or into the civil service. We continually train civil servants, teachers, according to how the need, arises. We continually invested in companies, in other infrastructure according to the needs. And there was no reason why Obaseki should stop doing so because we are in an election year. Now, the issue we have with the present government started from the transition period. In September 1st of last year, Edo State went completely paperless. Every government transaction was conducted by, means, electronic means. Commerce that government was involved in was conducted government was conducted e-government. Technology took over our day-to-day affairs as far as governance was concerned in Edo State. And true to that technology, everything we did was documented, put in data form. Now, when Obaseki was to leave, he set up a transition committee and wrote a letter to the incoming administration to set up theirs. They did, and set up 24-man member committee. The very first and only meeting the committee attended, the then secretary to government, who was outgoing, briefed the committee using our e-means, with which we train, with which we interact, showing them stage by stage the various delineation that we have in the delineated government, all the different things they need to see and know. They were so impressed that day that the chairman of their committee, who is the former deputy governor of Edo State, Honorable Pius Odubu, said they were impressed, that from what they have seen, they were impressed. And so we're all happy at home, thinking that we are going to have the best transition we have ever seen, in the state or elsewhere. We didn't know that they were so intimidated by technology and the sheer immense details, documented details of data on every aspect sector of Obaseki's governance and investments and everything, that they decided that the only thing to do was to ensure that they never had another meeting. And they never had another meeting.
Now, Chris, as beautiful as some of these things you've mentioned, why wait till after election to do this kind of massive employment? Because many people are going to find faults with it.
Well, the massive employment that they are talking about, did they give you figures and tell you the sector? What they are doing right now is that everybody that was employed during Obaseki's tenure is who they are referring to as massive employment. The review they are doing right now in the state is the review of everybody that was employed during Obaseki's tenure. As I told you, employment continually. Ask the civil servants who they have laid off. Many of their employment had been pending before this time you are saying, because they were passing. You see, to get employment to the Nigeria State Civil Service and Teaching Service, you pass through series of interviews. You will recall that Edo State is the only state where, if you're an Edo citizen and you come out with a first class from the university, you have automatic employment into the civil service. So, if you had graduates graduating this year, we automatically bring them in. It will not matter whether we are transiting or whether we are the edge of living government. So the people they met and the people they are complaining about are the people whose employment processes had begun long before the election and then concluded immediately after the election. That was just on one sector, which is the teaching service. Go and look at all the other teachers they are complaining about. They have been in the system for 2 or 3 years. working in the system under training and probation, so that if they fit in, you now make them permanent teachers. So when they are reeling out and giving figures, they should be specific about which sector they are talking about. In the civil service, the people that they are laying off have been there forever with Obaseki. They say they are consultants, their permanent secretaries brought into the service from Lagos, this one from Lagos, that from Lagos, and so they laid out all those qualified people that have contributed immensely to our Edo State civil service. Now, are they going to leave those places vacant? Are they not going to fill in those vacancies? The people they laid off, are they not Edo people who have been trained by those state government? And many of them were trained, who were experts and consultants outside in their own rights. Now, what you have done is to replace them with your party people, which in character have no idea about how technology works. And that is why the governor has now cancelled every form of e-governance transaction and have returned the state back to prehistoric times and saying everybody should go back and begin to push files. They sent those people off just to cover their inadequacies, to cover the fact that the e-governance those people can operate, they cannot cope with it. His aides could not operate the laptops they were given and the e-governance portal they were given. So these are all excuses to lay off professionally trained civil servants, competent trained civil servants, so that they can replace them with those redundant file-pushing, prehistoric people they are bringing in, and who are their party men, who have no idea. For instance, he just set up a committee, which he called Vehicle Recovering Committee.
Now, let me ask you quickly, does Obaseki have anything to be worried about regarding this probe that has been launched? I'm aware that there are two of them.
There are two committees. I don't know if the one you are referring to, there's one that is supposed to be Vehicle Recovering Committee. And then there's another one, the latest one, which is Assets Evaluation Committee, which he has set up. Now, Obaseki as a person has nothing absolutely to be worried about, except to be worried for Edo State. To be worried that structures and systems of governance, of progress, and of development that have been set and put in place by Obaseki, for the sheer hatred for Obaseki, for the sheer, pleasure of vendetta in the mind of Oshomole and the governor, they are destroying every of those systems. For instance, you say you set up a committee for vehicle recovery. It is on record and known everywhere by anyone who cared to know that Obaseki's aides, from commissioner to special advisors to all other SSAs and so on, nobody has and nobody uses what you refer to as official cards.
But the question is, why were vehicles said to be missing? Over 200 government vehicles.
So that's the question. And it was very funny. What Obaseki ran was a pooling system. We had a pool of vehicles. It was an agency of itself. If you wanted to use government vehicles, you applied. And then the vehicle is given to you on stated conditions. The driver has to return back there when the driver, normal time of closing from work, reaches like 4 p.m. in the evening. And then if you are using it for 2 days, you state all the official reasons why you want to use it. They were all official vehicles. Commissioners didn't have any vehicles attached to themselves. So when you see them dreaming up figures, the person who is engineering them, who is the former deputy governor, Philip Shaibu, his house in Abuja is like a car shop. And all the vehicles there are government vehicles. He's the one that has government vehicles in his house. So the government vehicles that they are chasing is shadow. They just created that committee for boys because they're going to tie a budget to it and they're going to keep giving them allowances. And the guy sent his personal telephone number to say, please, this is my telephone number if you see any vehicle anywhere. So that tells you they don't even know what they are doing.
How does a former deputy governor cut away vehicles under the watch of the governor?
So that lying and crafting lies is a very good profession of the APC government, which of course Shaibu has now, returned back to from where he came before. It is very easy for Oshomole to come and tell you on television that Aswa Igodalo does not have a house in his village, a house where Oshomole himself has slept and has brought friends to sleep when he needed to bury his wife in that same village. So the fact that they talk doesn't make what they have said any have any truth in it. You need to verify it. Philip Shaibu donated several numbers of vehicles to the present governor. They were Sienna buses under his office because by virtue of the fact of being the deputy governor, he was in charge of the state's economy. He was also in charge of the state security, network. So, and government bought all of these vehicles to aid our security network at that time and all of that. So they just come out to make those allegations. I'm saying to you that he was the only one that had access to vehicle under Obaseki. All others have to apply to the pool to use the vehicle that were returned. When Obaseki became governor and wanted to recover vehicles, government agencies, we didn't bring non-state actors from outside. Government agency in charge, Ministry of Transport, will send you a test describing to you precisely the vehicle. Here, they just tell you figures and numbers. They say over 200 vehicles. And they went as far as saying chairs, computer, and all of that. Now, undermining the entire security, network and apparatus we have in government house. Which means people were just driving through. When you are coming out of government house, you are asked to stop by the gate. Your boot is searched. So people were just carrying chairs, carrying computer, and then now you meet all the computer working there for e-governance. You close it down, and you close down technology in the state. If they had not carted away the computers, what are you closing down? So what they are doing is rabble-rousing, and they are not doing it intelligently enough, which is very painful. Come out with statistics. If vehicles were taken, how did you know that you have 200 vehicles taken and stolen within a few days that you have been in office? You've taken all the inventory of the vehicles. Who did you sit with? You refused to sit with the transition committee that had all the assets of the state and had all the information you need. So within 10 days, how did you now study everything that you refused to do? And in any case, we have it in soft copy. How did you now break it? How did you now study the soft copy you don't know how to operate? So you just sit down and you write figures and you come to the public and say 200 vehicles were carted away. How did you arrive at that? If we set up a transition committee to say, sit down with us, let's show you everything. It's inventory. That's what transition committee is. Take inventory of everything you have, the state they are in, the number that they are, and then you would have been querying on that premise to say, look, you told us that you had 10 vehicles, we have seen only 5, so to speak. But you refuse to sit down because you wanted to create this alibi. So that when you come down, you're beginning to bring out these figures, you will say, okay, they are right figures. You had the opportunity to sit down with the transition committee. You refused to do that because you wanted to create all of this kind of situation. So Obaseki has nothing to worry about. Obaseki has responded. He has told them that the reason why they are doing all of this is because they don't know what to do. They're hiding their incompetencies. So I think they're just busy doing nothing because Edo people know the truth. We all know the truth. We know how frugal Obaseki was. We know how, in fact, Obaseki's greatest problem with those who work with him was that he was too frugal with government property. He was too frugal with government money as against all other governments. So that is not the right place to go. That's not the right song to sing right now. It will not resonate with anybody when you say people stole. Except you are saying that after you took over in these 10 days, you opened the government house and people were coming in and stealing what was there, which you refused to receive in the inventory that would have been handed over to you by the Transition Committee.
We'll be monitoring further developments. Thank you so much, Sir Chris, for being on the show today.
Thank you so much.
And there you have it, folks at home. This is the Much Weekend Take on the show today. Thank you for watching. See you same time right here on LN 24/7. Once again, my name is Morno Balagogo. Many thanks for watching.